Shifting our focus now, Donald Trump has been indicted by the Manhattan grand jury in the porn star Stormy Daniels' hush money payment case. He becomes the first former U.S. president in history to face criminal charges. The historic indictment is likely to shake up the 2024 presidential race. Now, the specific charges are not yet known. The indictment will likely be unsealed by a judge in the coming days. These charges come after a years-long investigation into a payment made by Trump's personal lawyer to porn star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election. Trump, however, denies all wrongdoing in connection with the payments. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office said that it has contacted Trump's lawyers to coordinate his surrender for arraignment in New York. Surrendering for arraignment would usually involve being fingerprinted, photographed, potentially even handcuffed. Donald Trump, who's making another run for the White House, has slammed this indictment. He's called it political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history. Now, his party supporters, they were quick to react on his indictment. In the Republican camp, Trump's allies stormed Twitter, denouncing that the indictment in what they see is what they see as a vendetta aimed at derailing his 2024 campaign. Kevin McCarthy, the top Republican in the House of Representatives, said that the indictment had irreparably damaged the country. Calling out Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, McCarthy wrote, and I'm quoting here, "The American people will not tolerate this injustice, and the House of Representatives will hold Alvin Bragg and his unprecedented abuse of power to account." His expected challenger for the party nomination, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, slammed the indictment as un-American. DeSantis has not yet officially declared his 2024 run. However, opinion polls suggest many Republican voters, they are looking for an alternative to Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Stormy Daniels took to Twitter to thank her supporters. Daniels has maintained that she received the money in exchange for keeping quiet about a sexual encounter she had with Trump in 2006. The lawyer for porn star Clark Brewster also tweeted that this indictment of former President Donald Trump shows that no one is above the law. He stated, and I'm quoting here, "The hard work and conscientiousness of the grand jurors must be respected. Now let truth and justice prevail." Although this indictment creates big hurdles for Trump, he can still run for president even if he is convicted of the charges he's facing, given he is able to gain Republican vote for the same. Trump will be now put on trial, where he will enter a plea, and various dates for the case proceedings will be set as well.
Thank you, everybody. It's a great honor.
Now, the grand jury indicted former President Donald Trump over the hush money case. Several reactions have poured in from across the United States. While some rejoiced, others felt it to be the most horrible thing to happen in the country. Take a look at some of the reactions here.
Finally, it shows that democracy is finally at its place where it's supposed to be, and knowing that people cannot just riot. Violence is never, ever the response we need. Great job, America.
I come from a family of foreigners, so I definitely think he deserves a lot of things that he's going down for.
Donald Trump, I think it's the best thing that can happen in the world. Once he's gone, the world's safe.
It is the worst thing that has ever happened. I was so afraid. I begged Joe Biden to please save this country. I mean, anybody just step in and please. And I feel like safer now. And I feel like, was he ever going to be brought to justice? Was it ever going to happen? You know, it has to happen. Looking at the Capitol, we went and visited today, and just to know what happened there, you know, and it was all on his word and all his fault. And that's just the beginning. He can never get near government again, you know what I mean? Because this whole country, we were at the Lincoln Memorial today, and I was just in tears because tyrants, you know, tyrants, and like my husband said, it's tyranny, you know, and please, we can never ever let him come back again.
Yeah, it's politics. I think they're just dying to find a way to keep him from being eligible for running for re-election. I think they're looking, if they can't do that, then they'll try to make him seem or try to make him appear as unpopular as possible. That seems like they've been after him since he won his first election.
Now, for more on this, we're joined by Mark Merowitz from New York, a political commentator, also professor at State University of New York Maritime College. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast.
The pleasure. Hi.
Now, Donald Trump becomes the first former U.S. president in history to face criminal charges. What can you tell us of the impact of this on the 2024 presidential race?
Well, it's not just on the presidential race. It's upending and disturbing the calm and stability of the entire country. I think you heard that a little bit in your coverage. And an unnecessary and inappropriate interference with American politics, American law, and honestly, a complete disaster from every direction, and totally inappropriate from the legal point of view, in my humble opinion.
All right, just could you elaborate on that, please?
Right. So in other words, you have here a state prosecutor in New York State, and this is just my personal opinion and not as a lawyer. I happen to be a lawyer, but the point being that this idea, this case, first of all, we don't know what the actual indictment, an indictment is only an accusation, and the grand jury in New York and in general has a very low standard in terms of what they will indict or accuse somebody about. Here is a former president of the United States. And I think many legal scholars believe, and the Wall Street Journal stated this very clearly, that if you're going to indict or accuse a former president, you better have a very, very strong and powerful case. And this is not a strong and powerful case, if in fact we understand or are going to know what it is about. It's still sealed. We don't know what it's about. But apparently it attempts to link up this hush money that was paid to Stormy Daniels to a federal campaign violation. But in fact, the Justice Department passed on this. They didn't pursue it. The Federal Election Commission passed on it. They didn't pursue it. So it's highly controversial, even from the legal point of view. And the idea is that what is this really about? That this really is about a targeting by the district attorney. And again, my personal opinion, I don't know the indictment. I don't know what it all says. But the thing is that, and this is the statement of Vice President Mike Pence, who was just appearing on CNN, and others in politics and law, including Professor Dershowitz at Harvard and so forth, then what this is about is what was a fulfillment of a political campaign on the part of the prosecutor and also Attorney General that we're going to go and pursue Donald Trump. I'm not defending anything about Donald Trump. I want to make that absolutely crystal clear. I'm not defending him. All I'm saying is that the rule of law in this country, the United States of America, needs to be scrupulously followed. And you have the first time in American history that a former president has been indicted. And this is, it seems like a very, very tenuous case.
All right. Now, that being said, how do you see this unfolding? What options does this leave Donald Trump with?
Well, one big option is that next week we'll see that Trump is in Florida. And now, in order for Trump would have to come to New York, if he doesn't want to come to New York, if I understand it, Governor DeSantis has said of Florida that he is not going to extradite Trump. In other words, New York would request that Trump be brought to New York for arraignment for this arrest procedure. And what if the Florida governor says, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to extradite? That will then engender legal proceedings by the droves to try to figure out how to get Trump to New York, unless he does it voluntarily. Also, how does it unfold in terms of Trump coming to New York? Now, Trump, Republicans have said, many leaders have said, if people don't agree with it, they should protest peacefully. Well, New York is going to be thrown into a turmoil. I don't care. Hopefully, everybody's going to protest peacefully. There is no excuse for that, although Trump has put out some very inappropriate tweets where he talks about death, destruction, and all sorts of things. And all Republican leaders are condemning that, and it should be condemned. It's inappropriate. But if you're going to have New York's stability, quiet, calm, unraveled, and that just isn't legitimate. By the way, in New York, we have a real big crime problem. And the problem is that our district attorney, this gentleman here, has been, this is bail reform. What he's been doing is turning, felonies into misdemeanors, right? You're downgrading accusations. Here you've got the former president of the United States, and they're flipping a misdemeanor, which is a lower level crime, into a felony. And so what you have here is a complete upheaval in our country because we do respect the office of the presidency. And if you're going to go after a president, you better have a darn good reason to do it. And this doesn't seem to be, but again, that's a first impression.
All right. Well, Professor Merowitz, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast with your insights on this.
Thank you very, very much.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.